If the title of this video triggered you, please understand I have no interest in telling you to lower your standards. You get to want what you want, but I do see people making the same mistakes over and over again when they make their checklist of what they're looking for in a partner. And the goal of this video is to help you analyze whether your standards are serving you, whether that rigid checklist that you have created for this person you want to attract into your life as your partner is actually aligned with how you want to feel. And by the end of the video, it is my intention that you will be clearer on what you're looking for in a partner. I typically see 3 types of single people, and the third one is very rare, and I used to be the second one. So let me go through them right now. Type 1 has a hyper-specific checklist of what they want in their partner, and very frequently, that checklist is full of superficial statistics, like height and age and salary or hair or eye color. Like, it doesn't really get to who that person is. They don't really think beyond that. They have a checklist of random things that they think is going to lead to happiness in them. Type 2 hasn't really thought about it much. They kind of just have a vibe of a person. They want someone who's taller than them, or nice, or funny, or, generous. They might say something like, I'll know him when I see him. Or like, love is gonna hit me in the face and I'll have butterflies. But what's actually happening is this person experiences limerence over and over again, and they have anxiety and they don't understand what's happening to them. But that's a different video. But the third person is chef's kiss. They can tell you the values of their person. They can tell you exactly how their person makes them feel. They can perfectly articulate to you the essence of the person that they want to spend the rest of their life with. They understand the values that their partner has. They don't know what packaging their partner is going to come in, but they know what makes that partner good for them. You want to be that third person. Hello, if you're new here, my name is Charlotte, and I make videos for people who want to get out of their own damn way. I talk about the tools and the strategies that you can use to live the life that you want. So if that sounds like something you're into, please consider subscribing and hitting the bell, because odds are you are not subscribed. It really helps me out a lot. I very much appreciate it. I also offer notes for every video I make from this point out. You can find them in the description. It's going to ask you for an email. Just let me know if you want to opt into a future newsletter. I would love for people to sign up. Thank you so much. In today's video, we're going to talk about how you're settling by keeping your standards superficially high, and also how to reframe the qualities and the characteristics that you're looking for in a partner to get to the essence of that person and to actually start dating based on values rather than random superficial characteristics that honestly may change about a person's life. The first thing I want to bring up is this idea of the settling paradox. I first heard of this idea from the book How to Be Dateable by Julie Krafchick and Yue Xu. The idea is that people are so adamant of not settling. They reject the idea of caving for a quote-unquote lesser partner, but they simultaneously are tolerating very unhealthy behaviors in that partner, like inconsistency or disrespect or poor emotional regulation. And this happens because people focus on external traits that sort of they denote status, like looks or income or job title. Like, they look very impressive on paper, but at the same time, this person may have a scarcity mentality, and they're afraid of being alone or running out of time. And so they are going to put up with a lot of crap when they find a person who checks a lot of the boxes that they're looking for, because it does make that person impressive on paper. And our culture seriously glamorizes high standards, whatever that means to you, as a way to suggest that you're exclusive. Not everyone can date you, right? Like, you have high standards and you won't settle. But at the same time, and this is where the paradox comes in, you're fine with dating people who disrespect you. In some way, they are showing that they are not actually compatible with you. And so this leads to emotionally unfulfilling relationships, and it reinforces a cycle of dissatisfaction and disappointment, and that leads to dating burnout. And it feels like you can't trust yourself anymore because the people that you're picking are hurting you and you're sticking around and allowing it to happen, and it really degrades your confidence in yourself. So that is the settling paradox. Ultimately, what I want folks to take away from this video is that this very specific type of rigidity is not serving you when you're trying to weed people out, because that's what dating is. It is saying no to a lot of people. It is It is trying to find a person who matches your freak. It's natural to have preferences, but focusing on the wrong things is going to overshadow the deeper qualities that truly matter in the person you want. And I guarantee that most of the things you are looking for on that rigid checklist actually have a deeper meaning, such as height. And we will get to height in a second. I also want to mention that rigid standards are often very defensive. Sometimes having a strict preference is a way of protecting yourself from disappointment or from past experiences that you've had, like past pain that you've had. For example, how many times have you heard people say, I'm never going to date a doctor again. I'm never going to date a pilot again. I'm never going to date a fill in the blank again, because they had a bad experience with one person in that profession or that fit that criteria. And it gets a little scary when they start saying like a nationality or like a race of people. And you're like, okay, we're bridging into like racism here. Let's be careful. But they're trying to prevent themselves from being hurt because they had a really bad experience with this very specific person. And they're getting defensive. And like I mentioned, this rigidity can make dating exhausting. Okay. Like you are constantly screening people based on this rigid checklist that makes dating feel like a chore. And it's hard to get excited when you're searching for the perfect match that may not exist in the packaging or the form that you expect. I promise you, you do not know what packaging your person's going to show up in. I honestly have learned to find that very exciting. Anyone can be your person. I think that's lovely. So the question becomes, how do you balance having standards with being open that your person can be anybody? A lot of what I'm about to talk about comes from a woman named Lily Womble, who runs like a sort of, I guess it's a coaching service. She calls it Date Brazen. She used to be a matchmaker, and she realized that she can help people more effectively like be their own matchmaker by giving them a framework. And she calls her framework essence-based preferences. Her book is called Thank You More Please. I read it. It is a very easy read, like super good like beach read or train read if you want something to read like while you're commuting or something like that. Like I recommend it. She also has an essence-based preferences workbook that you can check out if you want more guided structure. This is her intellectual property. I'm not going to reproduce what she made. So you're going to have to give her your email if you want that worksheet. So I'll link all of her stuff below. Please check her out. I'll credit where credit is due. I should have asked her to come like talk and I just wasn't organized. I'm so sorry. So back to the question. How do you balance standards with openness? The good news is you don't have to abandon your preferences. I don't want you to. I actually want you to keep your standards high. And you'll find that even if you get clear on your values, even if you get rid of the rigid checklist, it may be easier to be open to people, but you'll find that people still don't meet your standards, and that's okay. You're not for everybody. Lily actually says something along the lines of, you're for the few, not the many, which I think is lovely. So before I jump into the steps of figuring out what your essence-based preferences are, what I want you to understand is the difference between a superficial metric and an essence-based preference. So let's say Agatha really wants a guy with a graduate degree or higher. She wants a master's degree, a PhD, an MD, a JD. She has that on her list. And when you ask Agatha some questions, when you really get to the core of it, you ask Agatha, like, why do you want this in a partner? Like, why does this matter? Is it money? She's like, no, it's not money. It's like, I want them to like to learn. I want them to have valued education. Like, that's very important to me. And so I want them to think it's important to them as well. And so you say, okay, so you want an intellectually curious person. You're like, yeah. Is it possible that person exists without having gone to grad school? The answer is yes. Agatha was trying to meet her standards by saying, like, I want a guy who went to grad school, but she wasn't getting deep enough. Grad school is the superficial metric. Not everyone has access to grad school. Someone may be very intellectually curious. They may live at the library or the museum or wherever you stimulate your mind, and they did not have any intention of going to grad school. They didn't see a return on investment. They didn't care to follow that track in life. She might be missing out on some really great people because of that. And what she's actually looking for is an intellectually curious person. You see what we're talking about here? This is what we're getting at. Now, this is the way you're going to broaden your perspective on who you are dating without, quote unquote, lowering your standards, because you're casting a wider net. It is true. And you are allowing more people in who meet your emotional needs, who meet your relationship needs, even if they don't fit a preconceived physical ideal or, a standard such as they went to grad school or they have a certain job. You're also going to work on your sense of self-awareness. This is allowing you to get a deeper understanding of yourself. You are figuring out what is attractive to you at the foundational level. What are you looking for? Before I did this exercise, I had an idea of the kind of guy I was looking for, but I had no clue what to call it. I didn't know how to articulate it. And now I have a lot more clarity. And it's actually very freeing for me because I can usually figure out within 1 or 2 dates whether this person has potential based on my, actual preferences. So now let me give you the 5 steps to figuring out your essence-based preferences and putting them into practice. First, define your logistical preferences. So these are concrete, measurable factors like location or age, and you are going to reframe them through a lens of emotional alliance. An example is, like I said, age, height, location, career, education level, financial habits, family planning desires. These are concrete things that you can write down for a person. For each logistical preference, you need to ask yourself, why do I want my partner to have this? So uncover the deeper meaning behind your desires. You also want to ask yourself, how do I want to feel with this preference? So you want to make sure each preference aligns with how you want to feel in the relationship. So let's say, for example, you have an age range of 30 to 40 years old. Why? I want someone who shares cultural references and is at a similar life stage than me. That's the why. What is the desired feeling? I want to feel a sense of belonging and ease in my relationship. You need to also root out some shoulds here. So if you reflect on this preference and you find that it is stemming from your societal expectations or like your family or something, like the degree thing might come back. My parents told me I should date someone with a graduate degree. You need to release that because it's not serving you. So I do want to bring up height. I feel like I have to. I feel like most people want to hear this. So the height thing. Height is an immutable characteristic. You cannot change your height. You cannot choose your height. And women generally want a guy who's taller than them, and men want a woman who's shorter than them. I am 5'9", and so I am the average height of the average man in the United States. I didn't understand the height debate. I didn't understand why women wanted taller guys. I naturally ended up with guys who are around the same height as me. They may have been a few inches shorter, they may have been a few inches taller, but it was never really a big deviation between that. I didn't really notice a huge difference. If the guy was 5'7", didn't really feel much different than he was 5'11". Like, it was the same thing, really. It didn't seem that big of a deal. I also realized that if I ever got the quote unquote ick from a guy and like I immediately went to his height, it wasn't the height that was bothering me. There was something else about him that I wasn't allowing myself to admit that I didn't like. And so I just went to the height. And it really wasn't the height. The height had nothing to do with it. But it wasn't until I dated guys who were significantly taller than me, which ended up happening just by happenstance. I dated a guy who was 6'4" and I dated a guy who was 6'6". So I don't start to feel short until someone's like 6'4". I don't notice the height difference until they're around that height. And I understood. I understood what the women were talking about. I'm like, oh, I feel like a feminine little angel. Oh my goodness, he's going to take care of me. He's big and strong. Like my inner child came out and I felt protected. I felt like dainty and tiny. I've wanted to be petite my whole life and it's just not in the cards for me. I found a guy who made me feel the way I've always wanted to feel, I'm like, oh my gosh, I get it now. I think that for the most part, women want a guy who's taller than them to the point where that woman feels small. They don't feel like they're taking up too much space. They feel feminine. They feel like this guy can protect them in this situation where it has to happen because the other thing is, men can be scary. Like if you trust this guy to protect you from other men, sure. I can see that. I can see all of that. With Lily's framework, how do I want to feel with this preference is the question that you are going to be asking yourself, even with the physical attributes. And you want to feel safe with this person. You want to feel attracted to this person. You can still want a guy who's taller than you. I'm not telling you you can't want that. It's fine. You're not a bad person for wanting that. you've been socialized to want to feel smaller your whole life. But I will suggest to you that maybe you can be more open to focusing on the emotional security that this man provides you rather than the physical attribute. Is this person going to have my back? That's what you're asking yourself. Like, is this person going to stand up for me when I need it? And it doesn't even have to be confrontational. For example, if you're out to dinner and they screw up your order, you don't want to become a Karen. You're just like, whatever, it's fine, but you're not really eating. All right. And you don't like what they gave you. He's like, no, I'll handle it. I got it. And so he advocates for you. He stands up for you. He shows you that he cares about your comfort and that you're going to eat the meal that you're paying for. That is very attractive. Okay. And it has nothing to do with his height, but he is showing you that he's a safe person and that your needs are going to be met with him. And he's offering you that security. That's what I'm talking about here. So that's step 1, logistical preferences. Step 2 is brain dumping your personality traits that you want your partner and the values that you want your partner to have. A personality trait is how someone behaves or interacts. So they could be outgoing, they could be funny, they could be kind, they could be ambitious. A value is a foundational belief that guides a person's actions. So this could be compassion. This could be curiosity. This could be social justice. This could be, they're family oriented or they're spiritual. Step 3 is going deeper. So once you have written down the personality traits and the values, you're going to ask yourself questions. What does this word mean to me? Why did I write down compassionate? How does someone with this trait behave? What does this trait or this value look like in practice? And you're going to start to refine your terms to be more specific. So let's say you wrote down smart as one of your personality traits, and you're going to refine that preference to intellectually curious, someone who is always looking to learn or to read or to explore ideas. What that gives you is a clearer set of traits that captures the essence of your ideal partner, rather than just saying smart. There are plenty of intelligent people who actually are not intellectually curious. So this is giving you more clarity here. Step 4 is creating what she calls root preferences. So you're going to narrow your list down to 3 to 5 root preferences that define the personality traits and the values that you are looking for in a partner. And you want to get specific so that they're tailor-made to you. And so she gave an example in one of her podcasts called the empathetic connector. So the definition for you could be of an empathetic connector is someone who deeply connects with others through warmth, through openness, through active listening, who's always striving to understand a more diverse perspective in a person that they're talking to. They're empathetic and they want to connect with people. That is taking the personality traits and the values that you've written down and making a very specific person. And that is what you're looking for in your partner. And you're not trying to look for some shortcut, because that's what it is. That's what a graduate degree is. That's what height is. It's a shortcut to a feeling that you're looking for. You want someone who is empathetically connecting. A superficial metric may not tell you that, even if you think it will. And finally, step number 5 is how to use this to enhance your dating strategy. So I'm only going to bring up this one thing. Lily has a lot more in her resources that I'm linking below that you can check out. But she has this thing that really resonated with me called the qualifying disqualifying question. So what you're going to do is you're going to go back and look at the values you wrote out for yourself and the definitions. And you're going to come up with questions that you can ask on dates that will allow you to figure out whether the person you're talking to is in fact what you're looking for. So if you value compassionate curiosity, your qualifying disqualifying question might be, what's the last topic you found fascinating and wanted to explore more? And so this allows you to really figure out your dates based on how they make you feel rather than checking the box of grad school, right? So that is the essence of what we're doing here, the core of what we're doing here. That is all I have for you today. Thank you so much for sticking around to the end. I really appreciate you being here. I'm going to put a playlist on the screen of my intentional dating videos that you might want to check out. And please leave a comment. Let me know what you think of the video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye, guys.